UCLA is a mess, and it is not a good job right now. The reported targets include PJ Fleck at Minnesota. Ryan Grubb potentially could be an option down at Alabama, the offensive coordinator. And stop me if you've heard this one before. A coordinator gets hired and then decides before he ever calls a play for that school to take another job. Yeah, Bill O'Brien did that. We're talking about him later in the show. Those would be two names at the top of my list if I were UCLA. PJ Fleck has done a good job at Minnesota. UCLA, in theory, is a better job, but is it? Because UCLA right now is in absolute shambles, and this is an administration that needs to have a long, hard discussion with itself about how committed they are to being good at football, because they have demonstrated time and time again. D'Anton Lynn, the defense coordinator, who I'll get to in a moment, also could be a target. He's at USC right now. They have demonstrated time and time again that they are not invested in football the way that you need to be in order to succeed in today's world of college football. They just aren't. And D'Anton Lynn, who will no doubt get a phone call from UCLA, is a perfect example because he was a great hire, not a good, a great hire by Chip Kelly a season ago. He coordinated an outstanding defense. The offense didn't have the quarterback play that it needed. They were in a transition year at that position, and they were between Ethan Garbers, who was just okay, and Dante Moore, who threw too many picks, and Colin Schlee, who was more of a runner. They couldn't find their footing on offense last year. I think Chip Kelly still knows offense, and I think it's a good hire for Ohio State. But UCLA had D'Anton Lynn, who was probably, if you were giving out these awards, the coordinator of the year in the Pac-12. He called them the best defense in the conference a season ago, even better than Oregon's, even better than Utah's, better than Oregon State's. And they were really, really good. They had some good players, but it was their scheme that really changed. And he was at the focal point of it. And UCLA let him walk to USC. I know USC's a bigger brand. I know USC's got Lincoln Riley. But if you were UCLA, if you were actually committed, that would never happen. Perfect example, University of Washington. Ryan Grubb was the offensive coordinator in 2022. Washington went 11-2. You know who wanted to hire him? Alabama. Alabama with Nick Saban did not want Tommy Rees as much as they wanted Ryan Grubb. And guess what? Washington said, we will pay you whatever it takes to keep you as our offensive coordinator. And they gave him $2 million a year, highest paid coordinator in the Pac-12 a season ago. D'Anton Lynn says, I want to go to USC, and rather than saying, we will throw the kitchen sink at you, we will do anything to keep you as our defensive coordinator, they didn't just let him walk out the door. They let him go down the street. They let him go to their crosstown rival, who they're going into the Big Ten with. That is an institutional failure of a commitment to not be able to retain D'Anton Lynn as the defensive coordinator. And now Chip Kelly, who wanted to go to the NFL reportedly, wasn't able to make anything work in those regards, would rather be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State than the head coach at UCLA. How many other jobs does that apply to? That's usually a jump that happens when you're going from the FCS ranks to the FBS ranks, or from the group of five to the Power Four. That's the sort of jump that it usually entails, but that is the difference in commitment from Columbus to UCLA's campus. And it should be a good job. I would caution whether it's PJ Fleck or even D'Anton Lynn or Ryan Grubb or anybody from taking that job. Not just because it is a massive undertaking from a roster standpoint. Do you know where their high school recruiting ranks in 2024 for this class? 87th. Their transfer rank, 49th. And guess what? Now that Chip Kelly has departed, those players can enter the transfer portal if they decide to. So it's going to be an even worse situation. UCLA could be one of the biggest rebuilds in the Big Ten, up there with Michigan State, up there with more than what Washington and Michigan are going to have to reload with. I mean, heck, Michigan, according to our friends at FanDuel, is an 11.5-point favorite in Seattle next year, which might be a few too many points with the talent that Washington has actually added. I would rather have either of those jobs, which are complete, not complete. Okay, UCLA is a complete and total tear down, build it from the ground up. But you have got a situation in which two rosters that have undergone massive change and are going to be big time pullback teams in 2024 are much better situations than what you have at UCLA. And so I question the commitment. If I'm a head coaching candidate who's going to interview for that job, I would hammer in on, are we committed to NIL? They can work in the transfer portal. Chip Kelly's brought in some good transfer portal classes. But how bought in are we? How bought in are alumni, our boosters, our fans, the administration? Is everyone actually behind this thing? Because all the indicators that I see are that UCLA is not as good of a job as it should be, and that it's not a great job. This is a complete and total rebuild. You're the number 2 team in your own city. Now, the allure of UCLA is twofold. Number 1, they're in the Big Ten. That's one of the Power 2 conferences in all of college football. And number 2, they are in Los Angeles. So if you can get things going and make it right, we have seen UCLA. Chip Kelly, once upon a time in 2022 with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, had them ranked inside the top 10. They'd beaten the reigning Pac-12 champion Utah Utes. And then they went to Oregon, lost, and things kind of fell apart from there. But it's not as if Chip Kelly proved that you can't win there. It's just that the situation he's leaving behind is a mess. And here's the other thing. Kevin Borba of Locked On Buffs pointed this out, and I think it's a really, really good point, and it emphasizes and underscores what I'm talking about here about the buy-in and the quality of job that UCLA actually is. Chip Kelly was rumored to be fired after the USC game. Then they won the USC game. Then they lost their regular season finale against Cal as a 9.5-point home favorite. Then they won their bowl game, and they decided to retain him. But there were reports, indications that Chip Kelly will be fired after the USC game. But then he beat USC. Wasn't supposed to win that game, but he did. And so they said, okay, we'll keep him around. And coaching candidates came and went. Jonathan Smith, he would have gone to UCLA. He would have at least taken a phone call there. He's a West Coast guy. He's in East Lansing now. But would UCLA have been able to hire him? Possibly. I think that's absolutely a possibility. How about Jed Fish? How about Jed Fish, who has been on the Rams staff before in Los Angeles? Look at the staff he's putting together up at Washington. Mighty impressive with a bunch of NFL guys. Well, you let him go. And then Chip Kelly leaves your school. You didn't fire him per se. That's not the official word. Maybe there was an agreed upon arrangement of, okay, yeah, you can go. We're not going to stop you or anything like that. But Chip Kelly leaves your school. It's a terrible look for UCLA. You let the coaching carousel play itself out, and your head coach leaves now in the early to middle portion of February, and suddenly you're scrambling looking for a head coach next year. Good luck. Good luck, because signing classes have already been inked. National Signing Day, Part 1 and Part 2, the former of which is more exciting nowadays because of the messed up college football calendar, that has all come and gone. That has all come and gone, and you've got a transfer portal window that will open in the spring, but won't be as busy as what we are used to when it opens in December. UCLA players have got free movement right now, but that's not a whole heck of a lot that you've got there from a talent-based standpoint, because a lot of their best players went to the NFL, guys like Laiatu Latu. And so I think that for UCLA, this is a really bad situation to be in. They could bottom out hard in the Big Ten next year. This is a difficult job. Doesn't mean someone won't be interested in taking it, but I think you're more likely to get a coordinator than a head coach, because PJ Fleck up at Minnesota has had some really good years, and that's not an easy place to be. You don't have the recruiting base that you have in Southern California, in Los Angeles, for goodness sake. But does he want to go start, and I mean all the way over? This is going to be a teardown. This is a tough job, and I question how bought in UCLA football is to being a great team. They should be more than what they have been. Chip Kelly was okay whilst there, but he would rather be an offensive coordinator at Ohio State, a premier program, than be a head coach. There are not a lot of places you can say that about, and that is a major indictment on UCLA. Boston College made a good hire. Boston College hired Bill O'Brien. How about the coaching carousel? It never sleeps, my friends.